Welcome to the Wholesaling Inc. podcast. I'm your host, Chris Arnold. As always, we are grateful that you're spending your time with us today. And if you're spending your time with me, you know I'm going to do my best to deliver for you and bring you some great value. I've got something exciting today because the topic that we're about to hit on, I'm going to be talking literally with the man, the myth, the legend, Rafael Cortez, who is obviously one of the newest coaches at Wholesaling Inc., coming in and teaching, the Rhino Tribe wholesaling course. I like to call it taking you from 0 to 1, from not doing a deal to doing a deal. But what I love and what we're going to talk about today is it's so much more than that. And so if you're sticking around today, let me tell you what you're going to get. We are going to break down a philosophy that literally you can walk away with today and begin to understand on how to build your wholesale business. So really what we're talking about is some people come in and they teach wholesale and they teach you to do a side hustle, right? They're gonna come in and show you how to do a deal or two and then kind of sayonara, see you later, help you have a good time. What I love that Rafael Cortez is doing is he's not teaching side hustle. He is teaching how to actually build a business. And if you know me, I love people that build businesses that can be scaled, that can be run without them, because you'll never get to the freedom you're looking for if you own a job. You're getting in this in order to build a business that is automated, that runs without you. So Rafael Cortez, what's up, buddy? Welcome to the show, man.
What is going on? Thanks for having me, man. I'm so excited.
Man, one of the things, man, I'll applaud you on is you and I getting to know each other. Man, you just have a lot of business maturity. You have a deep understanding. One of the first things when you and I were connecting, I was like, man, this guy looks at business like I do. It was like the first draw. I was like, this guy doesn't think like an investor. He thinks like a business owner. And you've done other businesses. You've sold businesses in the past. So that all speaks to just your history with this. So let's break this down. You have a philosophy, really kind of a wholesale blueprint is what you call it. And there's fundamentally like 6 stages to this blueprint on how to go from not just 0 to 1, but 0 to running an actual wholesale business. So I want to break these down one by one and drop some tidbits as we're going through it. That sound like a plan to you?
Beautiful. Let's do it. Yeah.
Let's do it. All right. So number 1 in your blueprint is source. Define this for me. Why is this step 1? What does it mean to source? And this is what you're teaching in your course.
Well, I want to backtrack a little bit. I think, like you said earlier, a lot of the times we start into, there's a low barrier to entry in wholesaling. So a lot of people get into it with the thought that, okay, I'm going to make a deal. And then next thing you know, a couple of deals come by and you're still kind of in that rat race, right? You're still in the mouse's wheel, going around and around, and you can't step away from it. I think it's important to understand how to build a business and set up the foundations, because that way you can step away from it eventually after you have all your pieces in a row or ducks in a row, and really, at the end of the day, we're all into it to reach, a certain degree of freedom, right? Whether it's financial, it's emotional, it's time freedom, it's whatever that looks like for each of us. So, success is subjective, but if you have a process, a system in place, you can really come in and build on that and reach that point when, if you just have a side hustle, it's never going to go away. It's like restarting the reset button every single time you have a deal.
Every single month, man. It is.
Yeah.
I like this definition. I don't know if you ever heard it. The true measure of success of your business is not revenue. It's more how long it would run if you stopped working in it today. I mean, I feel like that's spot on with your mindset. That's Absolutely. How you measure business. How long is it going to run if you quit showing up to the office every day? Right. And that's the true measure of building something that has longevity and is going to work without you. And I know that this is exactly what you're showing how to set up. So let's break it down, man. Talk to us about sourcing.
Cool. So sourcing, there's 6 steps. I broke it down into 6 steps. So this is the wholesale blueprint, right? The same way that I run my business, same principles that we have dialed in through time and whatnot. So the first one is going to be sourcing, which is your marketing, your outreach, and it can be anything. It can be cold calling, pay per click. I don't care where you're getting your leads from. At the beginning, everything is just data. So we don't have leads. We don't have anything that's pre-qualified. There's no, no deals. It's just sourcing the sellers. And it's a whole process. There's a whole, dynamic, a whole, multiple things that happen during the sourcing stage. But this is really kind of happening outside your immediate business, right? So you source the deals. After you source the deals, you're going to have to pre-qualify them. You really don't want to send them over to acquisitions right away, because you don't want to talk to 1,000 just, database contacts. You want to spend the time with the people who are going to make sense. And that's where the pre-qualifying process comes in. During the Sorry.
I got a question on that. Again, you're hitting on some good stuff already. So the pre-qualification process, I'm so glad that you're hitting on this, because don't you find that a lot of people skip this step? And this is why they get inundated and they create a bottleneck in their business, because they're dealing with stuff that's not pre-qualified, not allowing, really the cream to rise to the top. Is that what you're seeing here?
Oh, absolutely. I think there's a process to pre-qualifying, and this whole thing can be one single conversation, right? When you're sourcing, you have a small conversation. It's short, one page, thing that we go through. But when you're pre-qualifying, you're going through an actual discovery process. That's where you want to get to the root truth of what the problem is. And have that one-to-one connection with the seller. That's where rapport happens. If you skip the pre-qualifying process and you don't have that discovery session, and you move on straight to the offer, 90% of the time you're going to lose them. You're going to lose them right there and then. So it's just ineffective. It doesn't work.
Yeah. So give us a couple nuggets. Like when you're teaching how to pre-qualify at a higher level, what's maybe one or two, practical things you could drop, whether that's a question that you ask or a particular area of the seller that you pre-qualify, whether that be like motivation or, help us understand this a little bit better practically.
Well, part of the pre-qualifying process is going to be the 4 pillars, right? And we break those down on a regular basis: condition, timeline, motivation, and price. So we do
say that again. I like that. That's a good structure. It's what?
Condition. So the condition of the property, the timeline, how soon they want to close, the motivation, which is the reason why they're selling, what's the real problem, the issue, and then the price, right? If the numbers make sense. So
that's a great structure, by the way. Real simple, real practical, right there. If you're listening, you can run with that right now to make sure you're pre-qualifying well. Keep going.
Right. So and on the price, you're looking at making sure that the numbers make sense and all that stuff. But one thing that happens when you're having that conversation with the sellers is a lot of the times, especially when you're starting off, you're kind of going off of this robotic script, and you have 7, 8 questions that you go through, and boom, 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 but it's not really landing. It's not really, you're not really building that connection. And at the end of the day, we have to look at the other person on the other side of the phone as somebody that we can provide a solution to. So it's not just a script, it's a human on the other side, and you have to treat it as such. Believe it or not,
is what I hear you saying. Like, hey, you have some mechanics to this process, but you can't be mechanical in the way that you go about it. Is that right?
Absolutely. So that, believe it or not, there's a process, a system to that as well, to have better conversations and kind of tap into that rapport and that connection when people feel more comfortable with you, and they start opening up and really sharing what the real issue is, so you can get to the root problem of what they're having, and then provide a solution for them. At the end of the day, we're here to give them exchange time and convenience for equity of the house, right? But if we can't have
say that again, that was so well said. I don't want to miss that nugget.
At the end of the day, we're here to exchange, give them time and convenience in exchange for equity. We're looking for equity so we can build a profit. Simple as that. But if you don't have a good discovery session, if you don't spend the time and know how to do it methodically, it's not gonna happen. You're not gonna find out what the problem is, and you're not gonna know where the convenience can be provided, so you can get equity in exchange.
Yeah, man, I 100% agree with you. Even going back, I've been doing real estate now for 15 years. I can remember by the year, maybe 2 in my business, how thorough my pre-qualification. Like literally, we had a green pre-qualification sheet for sellers. And we had a yellow pre-qualification sheet for buyers. And literally my coach had them do that way so we wouldn't lose them and get them mixed up, because we'd have a lot of pre-quals. And that allowed us to make sure, again, at that point, we were dealing with retail listings and buyers. But man, that pre-qual sheet was everything to me. And so Rafa, I'm totally on board with the way that you're thinking and your philosophy. So first you source it. Second, you go through the pre-qualification. What's number 3 in your wholesale blueprint that you teach?
So this is the acquisitions process. It's really the backbone of the whole thing. I mean, we have marketing and the sourcing and everything, but if you can't close them, if you can't come up with the right numbers, if you can't come up with the right offers, and really navigate that closing conversation, none of anything else that you're doing is gonna matter. You know what I mean? So during the acquisition process, you have to make sure that you're tapping into the right numbers, how to present the offers, how to break them down. One thing that's happening right now, and it's very common, and it's just because of the way the market is kind of shaping up, the lowball offers that we're used to seeing left and right, they're no longer working. It's hard to be a one-trick pony now in wholesaling, so you have to have different options of coming in and then looking at a deal, structuring a deal, and acquisitions. That's really what it is. It's an art. You have an art in marketing, in sourcing and converting, right? But there's takes a different set of skills to be a good acquisitions rep.
I totally agree, because you could literally take an administrative person to do the pre-qual, but you wouldn't take that same person and put them on the acquisition, because it's the difference between a connector and a closer, right?
Absolutely.
And I know some listeners now are going, man, I'm doing such a great job, connecting with the seller. I have good empathy. I know that I'm a good listener, but when I get that ball down into the red zone, I'm just not getting it into the end zone. What I'm going to tell you is you're doing a great job at connecting, but you're not closing. And what Rafael's telling you, and he's spot on again, is that is a different scale to get that ball into the end zone, because you got to go from connecting to closing. And some people feel really uncomfortable with that. So let me ask you this. Someone that's a connector and struggles a little bit with the closing side, like it feels a little bit too aggressive, right? Or it makes me feel uncomfortable to really make that ask, right? For that price, like I'm dreading it, I'm sweating it. Maybe what's one thing in your program or that you teach that help people in that acquisition phase maybe get past that fear?
So the word fear, I want to highlight the word fear here. I think a lot of it, and 90% of it, really comes from a space of not understanding what's after. So what's on the other side of that conversation when you're closing? What expectations and that sort of thing, right? One thing that's going to help you get over fear is running the right analysis, running the right numbers, and knowing what you're going to be talking about. Especially if you're somebody who's very analytical or somebody like usually who's doing like a pre-qualifying process and that sort of thing. It's going to want to have everything down to 100% right before they actually take that action. And in closings, when you're negotiating, it doesn't work that way. You're never going to have all the answers. You just have to be ready and then jump in, to the best of your abilities, and then jump in there and see what the conversation throws at you. Now, one of the hardest things, Chris, believe it or not, is to drop the number. When you're dropping the number, if you can't get a number out of a seller when you're negotiating during the acquisitions process, and you have to give them your number, the simplest way to come about is to do it fast, kind of rip it off like a Band-Aid. So if you have a property that you're going to offer $100,000 on, it's worth, $220 or whatever. You drop the 100. And here's where the hard things come, or where the hard part comes. It's after you drop the number, you have to stay quiet. You can't say anything. You have to drop the number. Right there.
Drop the number and just shut up.
Yeah, drop the number, and it sounds like something so simple.
Don't try to justify it. Don't try to create a disclaimer. Just drop the number. That's great practical advice. Totally agree with you.
Yeah, by the time you drop that number, you already have that discovery session. You already prep them for what's to come and kind of what to expect based on our closing blueprint that we have. And so, they already know the numbers. It's a logical offer when you're dropping the number, but when you drop that number, regardless of what you do before, do not speak. and see it as a game. You have to stay quiet. You have to just wait for them to respond, because if you start talking, justifying your offer, you're giving them an out. And that's when the conversation goes from a closing conversation back to, oh, the weather is real nice, and you lose them.
Dude, well said. I mean, okay. So, and I think people listen, like, you're already taking notes, right? You're like, okay, this guy is actually giving me some useful stuff. And again, that's why I love about Wholesaling Inc. Every coach that we have is very instructional. We are not educating, we're instructing. And instructing is like, step one, do this. Let me give you the practicals on exactly how to do this. And in my opinion, that's what separates Wholesaling Inc. from all the other stuff that you find out there. And again, you can tell this is, Rafael, what you're giving right now is what I would just call straight street smarts, right? You can only pick this stuff up if you're a practitioner and you're actually in there doing deals, which you're doing. So let's go to number 4. You acquire. So obviously what comes up next is dispoing. So talk about this step number 4. And again, bring us another little practical morsel, man, that we can chew on.
Man, there's so many different layers to the dispo process. Usually the idea is that I'm gonna find a buyer and then just push it. Call this buyer and sell this property. But there's so many different things that happen within the dispositions process. And that's what dispo is. It's when you're selling the property to your end buyer, right? To your investor buyer. And so you have a deal or the contract. You have a deal and then you're selling that, that deal over to your end buyer. One of the things that kills me, and every time I see it so often, is that people are leaving so much money on the table on the dispo process. For example, we have a particular way that we come in, then we structure the deal. So we lock it at this one threshold, right? But when we come in on the dispo side, after we have the contract at hand and it's all signed, we'll rework the numbers, do a couple of things on there, and then ramp up those profits as well. So we usually end up adding another, $10,000 to the deal, aside from what we have on the acquisition side.
Because you're optimizing your dispo strategy, and you're absolutely right. I think a lot of people, whether they use ActiveCampaign, MailChimp, they got some emails in there. Let me tell me if this is what you see. You got some emails in there, right? You worked real hard to build your buyers list. You press send, and then the first offer that comes in, you take. Yeah. That's usually a lot of people's strategy. That's not like getting everything you can out of everything you got. Can you imagine, let's just say that you do 20 deals in a year. And, someone like Rafael comes in and goes, I'm going to show you how to pull an extra 5K on each deal. Man, that adds up. That's another 100K in your pocket simply because you didn't sell too quickly. You didn't take the first offer. And so I love that you're taking the time to teach this, because we should be maximizing the profit of every deal, not getting lazy and taking the first one.
Yeah, when it comes to revenue and spreads, which at the end of the day is what it's kind of it's what people get into wholesaling for the most part, right? We end up structuring the deals around the solutions, but the entry thought is, okay, how am I going to make that check? How am I going to bring that money through the door? There's not just one way of calculating that profit. I mean, we have 4 different ways of getting or building up the cushion for profit. One is through the comps. We have specific process. The other one is through the repairs. The other one is by showing our numbers, so making the offer logical. And then we built another cushion for profit through the dispo process. So that's 4 steps where you're building profit into the deal, as opposed to just coming in, making an offer and trying to make $20,000 sound like it makes sense to your end buyer. Like, you have to be methodical about this whole process.
And I hope that that's, if you're listening, what you're thinking to yourself is, man, this sounds like really systematic. And what I want you to say is, it should be. Business is extremely systematic. There is literally a process, a step by step. There is a methodical thing to do everything. Business is fundamentally systems. Everything you do in your life is a system. When you get up and you make a bowl of cereal, you have a system for making that cereal, whether you get the spoon out of the drawer first, whether you take the bowl down, whether you pour the milk with the fridge open, or you close it and then pour it and put it. Everything is a system. And so if you begin to understand that's what business is, Rafael's coming in like telling you, like, I'm giving you an extremely efficient, systematic way to do this. And that is why he's not teaching a side hustle. He's teaching you to run this thing like a business. I love it. Absolutely love it.
Absolutely.
So, Raf, let's go into, You have something else on that before we go to number 5?
And we do it consciously or subconsciously. Every morning when you wake up and you're putting on your shoes, which one do you put on first? It doesn't matter who you are. I don't care who you are. You have a system for things, whether you realize it or not. It's the same process here. And it's not that it doesn't have to be complicated. This is not a complicated business. It's a step 1, step 2, step 3. It's simple approach. But once you have it all laid down, you're cutting the learning curve, and it's tried and tested. It's proven methods that really at the end of the day, bring the win.
And I agree. And I love the word simple or simplicity that you said there. Because the reality is without systems, you're running a complex structure. With systems, what you're doing is you're integrating simplicity. And the reality is the longer you run your business, remember this, the more you should be moving to simplicity, not complexity. So if you're in the business now 4 years and you're looking going, dude, this thing is just getting more complex, it's because you're not building it right. It should actually be getting easier and easier, simpler and simpler. It's the irreducible minimum.
Right.
This thing took 10 steps when I first started, and now I've got it down to 3. And I spent like 3 years figuring out how to go from 10 steps to 3 steps on this one process. And I have it down to the irreducible minimum. You can't do this thing more efficient. Can you imagine if that was every system in your business? I mean, that's a mature business.
I think I've mentioned this before, but I have this philosophy of less business, more profits, right? And what I mean by less, it's an acronym for lean, effective, strategic, and simple. So anytime I start a new venture, and this is on my personal stuff, I approach it from the end, right? But if I can build something that's lean, effective, strategic, and simple, I know I'm going to be able to delegate it and step away from it, automate, delegate, and elevate. So otherwise, it doesn't make sense. Why am I building a side gig? Why am I building another job for me when I can get job security somewhere else and, I make less, but that's why you want to build a business, not a side hustle.
Yeah, because the side hustle, you're working in it. A business, you actually get the freedom to work on it. There's a big difference between being in it and on it. So let's go to number 5. So it's source, pre-qualify, acquire, dispo. Now we're over to measure. What's happening?
Right. Well, it's exactly what you said. Right now, it's working on the business. So what happens a lot of times, we get to the dispo process, we sell the property, or sell the deal to an end buyer, and we get that check, and that's it, right? We're thinking it's done. It's not done. It's so true. Not done. The most important part is the last 2 steps. And oh my God, these are overlooked so often. But this is where you measure your performance on that particular deal. Where did that lead come from? What's the cost per lead on that particular campaign? And you break all those down. We call them KPIs, key performance indicators, right? But these are the little, think about a car dashboard where you have the fuel gauge, all that stuff, all the dials and everything. This is the dials of your business. So you want to track those, and there's a specific set that are very, very effective to track, but you want to track.
Wait, I love this. I want to hit this. The challenge with KPIs is that there's so many KPIs that exist in your organization. Mm-hmm. And the real value of KPIs is when you narrow them down to the select few that really move the needle. Yeah. And so in your training, this is huge, by the way. It took me years in my investment business to get these KPIs down to the ones that matter most. You're actually coming in just going, hey, these are the KPIs that matter most. So I'm going to save you the time of tracking 100 things, and I'm going to take you down to X amount of things.
Right. Focus on this. There's a big difference between KPIs and navigators. The KPIs move your bottom line right now. So if you improve a KPI, you're going to see your profits. You're going to see your revenue get bigger right away. And that's a KPI. It's a key performance indicator. Navigators are just other metrics, other stuff that you're tracking in your business as well. For example, a navigator is the amount of calls. It's not necessarily a KPI because it depends on the caller, right? So there's a couple of different variables. Anyways, it gets into a rabbit hole real soon. But the big thing is to differentiate KPIs between navigators, and you want to track your KPIs. The navigators, if you improve one, you're going to see a result in about 30 days, 45 days. But KPIs happen right now. And yeah, there's a specific set of KPIs that you want to follow when you're measuring. And And that, it's the deal doesn't stop at the sale. You go back and then you break it down. You see, okay, cool. This is what I got on this, and this. When you have, 2, 3, or 4 deals that go by and you're actually measuring that stuff, you start seeing a pattern, and it becomes a predictable, type of machine. You're building a machine. It's something that's okay, cool. It's like like a puzzle, but you know what the overall picture looks like. You're just kind of plugging pieces in.
You're building your business off of. And I love what my CFO has always taught me. The one phrase that he has nailed to me again and again is like, Chris, the numbers are a weapon. Numbers are a weapon. You understand the numbers are a weapon. Dude, it's game over when you understand every important metric in your business, because you go from estimating and guessing and predicting to know exactly what's going to happen, because all you're doing is doing a mathematical equation. So I want to make X amount of money. If you know all your KPIs, you can back that all the way down to how many leads you need, to how much money you should be spending, to the whole thing. And then this is why you see businesses really blow up, because they're able to come in and turn that volume up, not by guessing on the business, but by strategically understanding the math behind it. It's just a science.
Right. It's science. It's science. I know it sounds almost funny, but it is. You get to a point when you have all this stuff dialed in, and it doesn't take much. It doesn't take years and years to build it up, because you start seeing a pattern real quick. But where you can actually start allocating funds. For example, say I have $1,000. If I throw them into this one campaign, I can expect this amount of leads. From those leads, this amount of prospects. From those prospects, this amount of leads. This amount of deals, which are going to give me about this amount of revenue. So you can take $1,000 and end up with a ballpark estimate of what the revenue is based on your performance on your business. And that's where the measuring comes in. That's where the measuring, it's super important. If you miss that part, you're
burning money.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what CR always tells me. You're just burning money. If you don't know your metrics, you're just burning money. This last one, I want to look at this. The last one after measure is improve. So now we've got your 6-step process: source, pre-qualify, acquire, dispo, measure, and number 6, bring it home for us, Rafael.
This is really where the magic happens, because it's where you take all that information, all the experience from that one deal, and we do it on every single deal. We have an improvement session, a breakdown. So this is where you take those metrics, what you made, what the scenario of the seller was, and you start asking yourself, and we do this with a team. I'll bring my director of operations, the acquisitions guy, and then we'll start having these conversations. Okay, cool. And it's not like a 5-hour long meeting. It's just a, sit down, 15, 20 minutes, but we break down each deal and we start asking ourselves, okay, regarding this deal, what's the most important thing that we should be talking about? That's one. And then, okay, what could we have done better? Okay, did we have any excess, expenses on this that were not needed? If so, how can we improve them? So you start, packing all that information and putting it all together, and you have this cool little recipe for making the next deal better. And that's how your overall operation, your business, because it's now a business, starts to improve. And that's what you can, when you can start looking at, okay, I want to make more deals. It's really, interesting when people come to me and they say, you know what, I want to scale my business. Okay, what's your process? I don't have one. Like, what do you mean you want to scale and you don't have a process? Yeah, I don't have a process. Well, you can either scale chaos or you can scale results, right?
Ooh, there was a lot of meat on that bone right there.
So yeah, I'm sorry, I get really passionate about this.
I'm on the same page with you here. I'm gonna put this into a principle, right? This is a principle that I live by, and I'm going to go from a business to your entire life. And here's exactly what you're saying, but I'm going to give it to you philosophically. Experience does not change you. Reflection upon experience changes you. Oof. People have experiences all the time in their life, and they don't grow, they don't change. Nothing happens in their life because of that experience, because experience alone will not change you unless you take the time to reflect on what that experience was meant to teach you. And most people don't take the time to slow down. And man, here's the thing. All these experiences in your life, underneath them are principles, lessons, wisdom. and they're all just sitting there for you to go back and reflect on those experiences because there's something for you to be learned. And what you're doing is you're taking a philosophical life principle and you're applying down the business and going, bro, you can have experience doing deals all day, but if you're not actually improving and reflecting on those experiences, you're never going to better your business. Those experiences aren't changing you. They're not making you a better business person.
Yeah, absolutely. Simple as that. Simple as that. Yeah. No, so
I love it. Yeah, I love it. So Rafael, you and I are like cut from the same cloth, buddy. I can sit here literally all day because there's a difference between, this is what I always tell people, don't define yourself as a wholesaler or a fix and flipper. When you start to put those titles on yourself, you're limiting who you are and who you can become. You are a business owner. You are an entrepreneur. Now, you might be utilizing right now the methodology of wholesaling, but as you grow and evolve and so forth, if you're a true entrepreneur, you will go launch and do other things. So be very cautious how you define yourself. And if you do that as a business owner, you'll start to think and really talk how Rafael and I have learned, again, through a lot of experience, a lot of pain. We paid for a lot of coaching and read a lot of books, man, to get to a place where we think about business from a business standpoint. So if you're listening,
it's a learning curve, yeah.
It's a huge learning curve. So if you're listening, you're like, man, I want to go from 0 to 1, or, I want to better my wholesale game. I've been looking for a guy that thinks like this. I don't want another guru that's just going to come in and show me how to deal a deal or two and pat me on the ass and be like, good luck. I'm looking for a system. This is why I know Wholesaling Inc. looked at you, Rafael, and said, we got to bring this guy on to teach the Rhino Tribe wholesaling course, taking you from 0 to 1. So if somebody's listening going, dude, I like this guy. I like him a lot. I want to learn more. Maybe this is something I want to do. Where do they find you? How do they do that?
They can go straight to wholesalinginc.com, wholesalinginc.com, and then just set up a call with one of our guys. And if it makes sense, from your side and our side, we'll set something up. And I look forward to working with you guys. We're very interactive. We're out there. This is not one of those things that we're going to give you a login and a password and then go forth and execute. It's not my gig. It's in our best interest, my best interest, to make you successful in what you're doing. And my focus is really that. It's just part of my purpose. So they can go to wholesalinginc.com and then have a conversation. Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, Wholesaling Inc., man, you don't get through the door unless you're coming in doing great instructional. And so, man, Rafael, you're the man. Glad that you're a part and coming in and adding value to the tribe. So all you guys, man, I know you had a lot of notes today. There were a lot of nuggets dropped, a lot of principles, some good like one sentence zingers that Rafael said they were great. Hope you wrote them down. And so till next time, we will catch you soon when we add more value. Talk to you later.